When will the supply of American weapons to Ukraine resume? I'll tell you everything that's known about it later in the broadcast. I'm Solomia Vitvitska. This is TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast, and be sure to comment on what you found most interesting. Next, a few of today's topics. The assault on Kostiantynivka. How a once large city lives under constant showing, and how many residents still remain there. A year after the strike.
All my neighbors died. The children, they were my neighbors. It's very hard, very hard.
When will the 5-story building in the capital, where a Russian missile destroyed an entire entrance, be rebuilt? Nature is rebelling.
1 million trees have been burned here. Almost 10 villages have suffered serious damage. Hundreds of people have been left without a roof over their heads.
Flooding in Texas, heat in Europe. What, according to meteorologists, should Ukraine expect? 3 people were wounded in Zaporizhia. The Russians attacked a civilian car in a Heliopol community with an FPV drone. And in Donetsk region, 3 people were killed and another 10 were injured. 13 settlements came under fire. In Oleksievo-Dreshkivka, a drone hit a house, killing 2 civilians. The enemy shelled Kramatorsk with multiple rocket launchers, wounding a local resident and damaging administrative buildings and a car service station. In Andrivka, they hunted down a minibus. 3 civilians were injured, and Kostiantynivka was bombarded with bombs and drones. The enemy struck a gas station in Dnipropetrovsk region with a drone. A family in a car at the gas station barely managed to escape in time. After the FPV drone strike, a fire broke out. The gas module, the pump, and the canopy caught fire. Rescuers managed to put out the flames despite the threat of renewed shelling. Throughout the morning, Russian drones dropped explosives over Kherson. 2 men and a woman were injured. Later, the occupiers attacked a civilian car. A married couple was injured there. Another person was killed and 4 more were hospitalized in the region due to enemy shelling the day before. At night, Russian drones attacked the outskirts of Mykolaiv. Busk also came under fire. Around 2 in the morning, a Shahid drone struck a gardening cooperative. Buildings and dry grass caught fire. An ambulance took a local resident away. He is in hospital in serious condition. 6 people are still in the hospital as a result of yesterday's Russian Shahid drone strikes on Zaporizhia. The condition of 2 women and 4 men is of moderate severity. The day before, the Russians attacked the city with strike drones. 20 people were injured. There was a strike near the building of the Regional Territorial Recruitment Center. 2 soldiers from the security company, who had been transferred here from the front after being wounded, were injured. Large-scale fires broke out at the sites of the strikes. More than 30 residential buildings, dormitories, municipal and educational facilities were damaged. In recent days, Russian forces on the front have made some advances in several directions at once. In the north of Sumy region, near Toretsk, Pokrovsk, and Novopavlivka. This is reported by analysts from the Institute for the Study of War. At the same time, the Kremlin's forces have somewhat shifted their priorities in Donbass. It seems they are reducing offensive operations in the Pokrovsk direction and redeploying forces to the Kostiantynivka direction. Most likely, this is to continue their attempt to occupy Pokrovsk, but not head-on as before. Instead, to try to bypass it from the direction of Dobropilya, which is 20 kilometers to the north. They are resorting to these changes because the previous tactics had no success over the past 2 months. Pokrovsk, as always, remains the most intense hotspot for fighting. According to the General Staff, today the defense forces have already had to repel up to 40 enemy attacks there. And another of the toughest sectors is the Novopavlivka direction. Today, 24 assaults were recorded there. In total, by midday alone, the General Staff of the Armed Forces counted up to 100 clashes along the entire front line. Once a city of 70,000, it is now, in a sense, the center of the front in Donetsk region. The Russians are constantly attacking in the Kostiantynivka direction, trying to reach Kostiantynivka itself, an important logistics hub for Ukrainian defenders. There are still civilians there, approximately 9,000 people. Drones, guided aerial bombs, and enemy artillery. That's what their life is like, says our Ruslan Yarmolyak, who is currently working in Donetsk region.
This is already during the day.
Shells are exploding nearby, and she is watering the flowers. Lyudmila Andreevna lives in this bombed-out apartment building along with a few other neighbors.
We sit in the corridor and stay there, in the little corridors, while the shelling goes on.
Her living space is just a few hundred square meters. It's forbidden to go far because shells and bombs are falling everywhere.
Both during the day and in the morning. Day and morning alike. It's very expensive. They don't want to leave their home. We just closed up the windows and keep living.
Vitaly Petrovich stretches out his twisted hand in greeting. He went outside and got caught in the shelling. They hit his arm, but not well.
There was this UZ vehicle standing on the road. A military UAZ was parked on the road. When the UZ got hit, it started exploding, and the two of us got caught in it right here.
Pensioner Vitaly was left alone. There's nowhere to go and no money to get there, so he just counts the days. He's made it this far, and that's already something.
I'm the only one living in my building. There's no water, just electricity and gas. During the day it can be quiet, but from 10 at night until morning, they bomb us. Sometimes they bomb during the day too.
Giant, charred stone skeletons. That's what the apartment blocks look like without windows, with blocked entrances and collapsed roofs, no electricity or water.
We'd sit somewhere, meet up, have a smoke.
We'd smoke, talk for a bit, and then go our separate ways.
Here, death walks the streets, and none of the locals know when their time will come. Shells from the sky destroy everything.
You holding up okay?
Seems like it.
The church took the hit instead of the car. A car speeds through a street shrouded in smoke and fire. There are no people. Pieces of roof, shrapnel, and tree branches litter the road. The enemy is advancing on Kostiantynivka from 3 directions, trying to break through our defenses in Chasiv Yar and Toretsk, and airdrop bombs on civilians have become a daily occurrence.
They're trying to hit our rear positions, but since they operate without regard for the fact that there are civilians here, these airstrikes, like the one we just saw, are prepared in just 5 minutes. So it wasn't aimed at us, it was planned, and obviously they had some targets in mind.
Even during the shelling, the city keeps on living. A few cars drive by here and there. Locals hurry somewhere along the buildings, while enemy FPV drones and spotters circle in the sky. Shells land everywhere, hitting both apartment buildings and private houses alike. That's why everyone moves quickly and gets in their cars. In the evening, bombs will fall again, and once more the locals will count the minutes and hours until dawn. Lyudmila will come out again to water her flowers.
The ones we had, the ones we planted. There were roses. They bloomed every year. We planted them every spring.
Ruslan Yermoliuk, Mikhailo Pariata, TSN, 1+1 from Kostiantynivka.
Deliveries of American weapons to Ukraine may resume after talks in Italy between American and Ukrainian officials on the sidelines of the Ukraine Recovery Conference. This was reported by the American publication Politico, citing 2 sources familiar with the course of the negotiations. Earlier, the Pentagon promised to provide Ukraine with new weapons. A brief statement on behalf of the institution's spokesperson on the website of the U.S. Department of Defense reads as follows. By order of President Trump, the Department of Defense is sending additional defensive weapons to Ukraine so that Ukraine can defend itself while we work to establish lasting peace and end the killings. End of quote. However, based on this statement alone, we cannot say anything about the scale of the deliveries or their contents. According to sources cited by the Wall Street Journal, Trump himself, in a phone conversation with Zelensky, stated that he did not order the weapons approved for Ukraine by the previous American president to be held up in Poland.
Regarding Ukraine, Mr. President, do you plan to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We are going to send a bit more weapons. We have to. They need to defend themselves. Right now, they're being hit really hard. We'll send them a bit more weapons. Yes, mainly defensive weapons.
To dismiss Ms. Oksana Markarova, the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., that is the intention President Zelensky currently has. At least, that's what Suspilm reports, citing its own sources in the president's office. Reportedly, Volodymyr Zelensky has already informed Markarova of his intention, but offered her to stay on his team and will later decide exactly what position she will hold. Oksana Markarova was appointed as Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. in February 2021. Over more than 4 years of work, the ambassador had professional relations with the Joe Biden administration. However, during last year's U.S. election campaign, Trump supporters accused her of organizing an event for the Ukrainian president that was allegedly in support of the Democratic candidate. At that time, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Republican Mike Johnson, demanded that Zelensky dismiss Markarova. There is still no official confirmation of her resignation at this time. It is also unknown who will replace her as Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. But the same film, again citing sources in the president's office, reports that it could be someone from the current Ukrainian government, in particular Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal or Defense Minister Rustem Umerov. What does the possible replacement of the ambassador to the United States indicate? What will this affect? And who, in your opinion, would be a strong representative of Ukraine in America? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Meanwhile, I continue with the TSN broadcast. A year without homes. On this day last year, a Russian missile destroyed a residential building in Syrets. As a result of the enemy attack on the apartment building, 13 people were killed, including 5 children. What the building looks like now, and when those who managed to survive will be able to return to their homes, TSN correspondent Natalia Kachuk will tell us next.
Exactly 1 year since the day a Russian missile struck the residential building in Syrets. This is what the 5-story building, destroyed by the Russians on July 8, 2024, looks like now. An entire entrance of this building was completely destroyed that day. "13 people died under the rubble of the apartment building, including 5 children. This was the highest number of people killed by Russia in a single residential building in the capital. Those who managed to survive that tragic day gathered near the building today to honor the memory of their deceased neighbors, friends, and relatives.
I'm from that very entrance, the one that's gone. I actually thought this year would be easier. We kept waiting for things to get better. No, this morning I woke up just crying because all those neighbors of mine are gone. The kids, they were my neighbors. It's so hard, so hard. And we will never forgive those Rashkas. Never. I hate.
Margarita says she still can't recover from the attack that took her neighbors' lives and left her without a home. At the moment of the explosion, she was at work. Her dog died in the apartment.
Still, we are becoming stronger, much stronger because of this grief, because of this. We take the best from it. We still take the best, because our nation is a natural nation. It is strong. Ukrainians are very strong. I think everything will be all right.
On the anniversary of the Russian attack, neighbors bring flowers and toys to the site of the tragedy.
Today is our 2nd birthday. The day of the death of our residents.
Alina is a displaced person from Donetsk. She had been living here since 2014, so she is losing her home for the 2nd time. Some residents of the destroyed apartment building moved in with relatives after the attack. Others are renting apartments, and another 10 families received social housing. Margarita now lives in the neighboring building, from whose window she has been watching the reconstruction for a month. Currently, repair work is underway at the site of the destroyed apartment building. The construction workers have already dismantled the remains of 2 entrances. The surviving part of the building is planned to be reinforced, and the collapsed entrances will be rebuilt. The houses are being restored with funds from the city budget. According to the documents, the work is supposed to be completed by the end of this year.
Restoration work is underway in the entrances that remained intact. Some apartments are being restored under the e-recovery program, while others just need interior repairs. But for now, according to forecasts, we're talking about 2026.
Before the missile strike, the head of the Homeowners Association says the residents of this building lived like one big friendly family. Now, they support each other and occasionally meet near their homes, hoping that one day they'll be able to return.
We have no doubt at all that Ukraine will win this war. So, if they think that with their terror and their genocide, what they're doing to us now,
to our soldiers, to our prisoners, and to our civilians. If they hope that this will break our spirit as a nation, on the contrary, right now we are becoming a nation. We are being born as a nation, as a state.
People hope to return to their homes as soon as next year. Natalia Kachuk, Roman Ripa, Ayer Kaliniak, TSN 1+1.
The reconstruction of the new building of Okhmatdyt is expected to be completed by the end of the year. This was reported to TSN by the acting director general of the center, Alexander Yurin. Last year, on July 8th, news spread around the world. The Russians committed a brazen and cynical war crime by striking one of the buildings of the medical center in broad daylight. At the time of the attack, there were more than 600 children in the hospital. Later, experts would determine that it was a Kh-101 missile. The strike was premeditated. The prosecutor general's office identified one of those involved. Russian General Kabalash gave the order to strike the Okhmatdyt buildings, and afterwards, he was even promoted. That day, when the whole world and the media were writing about the shock of the attack, we witnessed an incredible unity among Ukrainians. Hundreds of Kyiv residents came to help the rescuers at the building hit by the Russian missile. TV hosts and members of parliament also helped clear the rubble. Volunteers brought water and fruit because the heat was unbearable. Everyone who could rushed to save the young patients who were at risk of being trapped under piles of debris. The hospital did not stop working for a moment, although the bone marrow transplant department is still operating at another location for now. The hospital and the Ministry of Health prepared the project and cost estimate documentation, held a tender in May, and selected a developer. The payer for the restoration of the new building is the Okhmatdyt Foundation, Healthy Childhood. Conservation work is also ongoing on the toxicology building, which was hit by the missile. What to do with the surgical building, whether to rebuild it or demolish it, has not yet been decided. But the issue of safety for patients and medical staff also remains unresolved, as long as the Russians continue to attack Ukraine with missiles and drones, because moving all inpatient facilities underground is unrealistic, the hospital management says.
You have to understand that constantly moving the number of children who really need it, especially those in intensive care, is technically impossible. That's why the risk for our patients, unfortunately, especially when there's a threat of a missile attack, always exists, because it's impossible to evaluate all the patients to the shelter at once in just 5 minutes. But we try to do this constantly and at the very least protect everyone, all the patients, with at least 2 walls.
So, the weather. In the United States, there are hurricanes and deadly floods, while all across Europe, there's stifling summer heat. In Portugal, a record 46 degrees has been recorded. Meteorologists explain the rapid warming as being caused by hot air from North Africa. The heat is triggering forest fires that are hard to stop because strong winds quickly fan the flames. What has happened to July, and what should we expect here in Ukraine? TSN Week correspondent Irina Kovalenko will tell us more.
The painful consequences of climate change. In Spain, forests have caught fire due to the scorching temperatures. The fire has now been contained, but at least 2 people have been killed by it. This happened in the northeast of the country. However, the extreme heat has gripped all of Western Europe. France closed schools and the Eiffel Tower, and in Switzerland, they even shut down a nuclear power plant. The economic losses from the heat wave are already being calculated as a percentage of GDP. And here, a forest is burning in Turkey's Izmir province. The flames were fought with the help of helicopters and airplanes. There's no other way to get water up into the mountains. But the fire still reached a residential area, killing at least 1 person. The authorities closed several roads leading to the resort town of Sezim on the Aegean Sea. Wildfires in western Turkey have damaged about 200 homes. Around 50,000 people were temporarily evacuated.
1 million trees have been burned here. Nearly 10 villages have suffered serious damage. Hundreds of people have been left homeless.
Because of the heat, fires have also broken out in the southern resort province of Antalya and near Istanbul. Thousands of people are fleeing for safety. In the east of the island, those trapped by the out-of-control fire are being evacuated as the blaze, driven by gale-force winds, is racing forward like an express train. Hundreds of firefighters are trying to bring the fire under control, but the wind keeps reigniting the hotspots. In many areas, power and mobile service have been lost. Meanwhile, another disaster is raging in the state of Texas. More than 24 people have died, and children are missing. These are the consequences of a sudden flood in Texas. Kerr County found itself at the epicenter. For the local authorities, the disaster came as a complete surprise. Due to heavy downpours, the level of the Guadalupe River rose to a record 9 meters. The water destroyed roads and swept away cars, including ambulances. The Mystic Camp was hit especially hard. At the time, there were more than 700 children there. 25 of them are considered missing. A state of emergency has already been declared in the state, and the local authorities have appealed to the White House for help, whose administration does not believe in the theory of global warming. Although scientists link the recent disasters precisely to this.
The trend in recent years is that in most regions of our planet, temperature indicators are steadily rising. In many respects, in Spain and Portugal, temperatures of around 40, even 46 degrees were recorded at some weather stations. These are even record-breaking figures for June in these countries.
However, these scorching records haven't reached Ukraine. And although fires raged here as well, in Mykolaiv region, according to meteorologists, rain is expected again soon. Irina Kovalenko, TSN Week, 1+1.
Well, that's where I'll wrap up this TSN broadcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss our live broadcasts every weekday. And now, here are the highlights of the day. 3 dead and 10 wounded as a result of the strike on Donetsk region. 13 settlements came under fire. In Oleksiyevo-Dreshkivka, a drone hit a house, killing 2 civilians. Kramatorsk was shelled by the enemy with multiple rocket launchers, injuring a local resident and damaging administrative buildings and a car service station. 6 victims are still in the hospital as a result of Russian Shahid drone strikes on Zaporizhia. The day before, the Russians attacked the city with strike drones. 20 people were injured, and there was a hit near the building of the Regional Territorial Recruitment Center. 2 soldiers from the security company, who had been transferred here from the front after being wounded, were among the injured. Deliveries of American weapons to Ukraine may resume after negotiations in Italy, according to Politico. Earlier, the Pentagon promised to provide Kyiv with new weapons by order of the US president. This is being done so that Ukraine can defend itself, while both sides work towards establishing lasting peace and ending the killings. Regarding Ukraine, Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We are going to send a bit more weapons. We have to. They need to defend themselves. Right now, they're being hit really hard. We will send them a bit more weapons. Yes, mainly defensive weapons.
The school child's package. Parents will be able to receive financial assistance for first graders as early as this summer. This was reported to TSN by the Minister of Social Policy, Oksana Zomovic. The government announced a new social initiative the day before. We're talking about a financial aid of 5,000 hryvnias, which will be given to families of first graders who will study offline. The government will receive information from the schools. Bad weather swept through the western part of the country. More than 700 settlements in 7 regions have been left without power. In Okhmatdyt, 70 villages are without electricity. In several districts, strong winds knocked trees onto the roads. In some places, they fell on parked cars. Fortunately, there were no casualties, and in the parents' community, the storm damaged the roof of a lyceum. Dozens of rescuers spent the whole night dealing with the aftermath of the bad weather.